Hello, Mr. Chang here. This is the last iXL skill of the year you guys are going to be doing. Let's just nail this and get it right. So pumped to take you through this. Let's spend some time on it. On the left-hand side here, I've given you a little sticker. I call it a sticker. It just gives you the basic approach that we are going to use when we are solving all of these equations. So the basic approach is really just two steps, and I'm just going to do this over and over every single time. But I want you to first simplify expressions by combining like terms and or applying the distributive property. That's step number one. And step number two is to then read the equation and do the opposite of what the equation tells you. So when I say simplify expressions, I mean simplify, reduce, make easier to understand each side of an equation, right? So in the first problem, 9t minus 17 minus 12 equals -2. The first thing you want to do is simplify the expression, and the expression is half of an equation, by combining like terms right here. Combining like terms. Minus 17 minus 12. Minus 17 minus 12. I see the subtraction here, so I'm going to rewrite this as adding the opposite. So I'm going to say -17 plus -12. Some of you guys do this a different way, but -17 minus -12 equals -29. So that's my first step. I am simplifying the expression, just the left side, simplifying the expression by combining like terms. And that's exactly what it's telling you right here. So I am just going to type the number 29 into the box, right? One quick note, remember, when you are simplifying an expression, the operations go with the term. So it's -17 minus 12, that's -29. So they already have the minus sign there, so you're good. So you just put 29. So now you've got 9t minus 29 equals -2. 9t minus 29, oops, let me just do this. 9t minus 29 equals -2. Now I'm going to read the equation and do the opposite of what the equation tells me. So this says 9t minus 29 equals -2. It's telling me to subtract 29 from 9t, and I'm going to do the opposite of that. So I've got 9t minus 29 and I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to add 29. And whatever I do to one side of the equation, I have to balance it by doing the same operation to the other side. So we're here, it says add 29 to both sides. They're already telling you what to do. They're basically doing the opposite of what the equation above said. So 9t minus 29 is right up here. You're adding 29 to both sides. Now, when you add 29 to -29, you should recognize that as a zero pair. That's just zero. It cancels out. Okay? So you're going to be left with, and then -2 plus 29 is is positive 27. So right in here, you're going to put 27. And if I come back down to the equation, you're going to see that this is 27. And I have simplified this equation to 9t equals 27, which is right here, the third line. Now I'm going to do step 2 one more time. I'm going to read the equation. I'm going to do the opposite of what the equation tells me. And in this case, 9t equals 27. You have to recognize that the coefficient in the variable, there is multiplication happening here. We don't show the multiplication. But anytime you see a coefficient and a variable together, that term is actually 9 times t. So what do? We do the opposite of it to both sides of the equation. So 9 times t equals 27. Well, I'm going to, instead of multiplying 9 times t, I'm going to divide both sides by 9. 9t divided by 9 just gets you 1t. And 27 divided by 9, you should recognize as the number 3. So that is your answer. T equals 3. And what you should see is that if you simplify both sides of the expression first by combining like terms or using the distributive property, and then you do a series of opposite moves, and you're going to do it to both sides of the equation, your equation will simplify, gets shorter and shorter. The number of terms will go down until you are left with just the variable on one side of the equation and your value or solution on the other. So t equals 3. We're good to go. Great job. Happy, happy. Let's do one more example. So again, we're going to simplify the expression, right? Try and reduce the number of terms on both sides of the equal sign. And then we're going to, when we're happy with that, we are just going to read the equation out loud. And whatever the equation is telling us to do, we're going to do the opposite of it to both sides. And that will continue to help us get to a place where we have an answer. So negative 15r minus 5 plus 3r equals negative 7 minus 5. That is line 1. That is our first original equation. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the left side, the expression, and we see 2 r's that we can combine. And I will highlight this for you. I will just draw a circle around them both. And you can see, you can take this negative 15r plus 3r. So negative 15r plus 3r. And remember the operation, the minus sign and that plus sign right in front of each of those terms, they go with the terms. You bring them together. So negative 15r plus 3r. Negative 15 plus 3r, I subtract those. And I take the sign of the number with the greatest absolute value. Negative 15r has a bigger absolute value than 3, so I know my answer is going to be negative. So I just subtract them like normal numbers. 15 minus 3 is 12, and then I take the negative sign, negative 12r. So that is step 1, negative 12r. So now I have in line 2, negative 12r minus 5 equals negative 7r minus 5. And here, if you notice, you've got the variable r on both sides of the equation, right? I've got 12r on the left, and I've got minus 7r on the right side of the equal sign. So what I want to do here is I'm just going to go to step 2. And step 2 is to read the equation and do the opposite of what the equation tells you to do. And I'm going to apply that to line number 2. So negative 12r minus 5r equals negative 7r minus 5. So I see this minus 7r here. I'm going to write this negative 12r minus 5 equals negative 7r minus 5. And I'm going to do the opposite of subtracting 7r. I'm going to add 7r, and I have to do it to both sides of the equation. And when I do that, positive 7r minus 12r is minus 5r minus 5 equals minus 7r plus 7r. Again, you should recognize these as a zero pair. They cancel each other out. It's just 0. So we got rid of it. And so we have in this next box minus 5r. Negative 5r minus 5 equals negative 5. You can see what we did right there. We added 7r to both sides. I'll highlight that for you so you can make sure you see that we added 7r to both sides. That's right here and right here. And you should notice when you add 7r to both sides, we moved it from the left of the equation over to the right. We canceled negative 7r plus 7r. That equals 0. So we just completely got rid of that term on the right. It disappeared. And now our equation is simpler yet again. And now we have negative 5r. Now let me write this one more time. Negative 5r minus 5 equals negative 5. And we're just going to do the opposite of what this equation tells us to do. You should notice that we have minus 5r right there. Give myself a little more room to write. And now instead of, I'm going to add 5r to both sides. When it says add 5 to both sides, that's what I'm doing right here in green. I'm adding 5 to both sides of the equation. And minus 5 plus 5, that's a 0 pair. Again, they cancel out. That's just 0. And so you're left with minus 5r equals 0. So minus 5 plus 5, that's just 0. So look at that. Minus 5r equals 0. So let's just put the 0 into line 4. And now, remember, negative 5 times r, that's the coefficient is negative 5. R is the variable. When you see them together, there's multiplication happening there. And when you see the multiplication happening there, you do the opposite. So negative 5 times r, there's multiplication happening inside there. And instead of multiplying by negative 5, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 5. That's your last step. 0 divided by 5 is just 0. So this is pretty easy multiplication, or sorry, division. Your answer is 0. R equals 0. And how do we know that this is right? Before I hit the submit button, what can I do to check this? Well, if I go back up to the original equation and I put 0, I substitute this 0, r equals 0, back into all the r's I see up here, then I get negative 15 times 0 is 0, minus 5 plus 3 times 0, which is just 0, equals negative 7 times r, and r is 0, so that's just 0. So I have negative 5 equals negative 5. And that is a true statement. So this solution worked. R equals 0 works. I just substituted it back in. All right. Before I hit the submit button, maybe there's a couple of other things that I wanted to say here, which is, let's see, we talked about combining like terms, doing the opposite. Oh yeah, what I wanted to tell you is iXL is giving you a very specific order, right, to do things. They're telling you exactly step by step what they are doing. And so your job when you have a low SMART score is to do exactly what they tell you in the order that they tell you. But as you move forward in this skill, you can do things in your own order, okay? You might add 5 to both sides before you add 7R, right? You might deal with the constants before the variables. That's totally up to you. But at least in the early parts of this skill, they're going to tell you specifically what to do. And so you need to interpret their moves. But as you go further, you get to make your own moves. So let's hit submit. We knew that that was right because it all worked out. That's good. Okay, I will come back and do a second video with a few more solutions for you guys to look at. This video is already about 15 minutes long, so we're going to cut this one here and we'll do a part 2. Thanks for watching.